ndidzaziva, ndine shoko guru randinoda kubudzai. Nelson Chamisa wave nebato itsva, iri danho rakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kuti zita reMDC rakange rasvibiswa nemhandu, ngonzo rakomichina nakupe nevamwe. Saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota, munofanira kucherekedza kwazvo chiso chaChamisa nemasi matatu, pamwe neruvara rwemabhanana. Votera Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai pamasi matatu. Voterai Nelson Chamisa, voterai paruvara rwemabhanana.
This is Letter from America. Today's topic is Defiance campaign by the CCC youth is scaring ZANU harina manyanga ZANU PF terrorists. We will also look at the police, army, CIO, and 99.9% of Zimbabweans are now thoroughly fed up with ZANU PF. And for ZANU PF, the Citizen Coalition for Change is the apocalyptic wind of change former British Prime Minister Macmillan once told the South African Boers in 1960. Zizi Harina Manyanga is an old Shona story that encourages people not to be easily scared, because things are not always what they seem to be or what they seem to look like. For many years, ZANU PF has used violence to threaten and harass people pretending to be stronger and tougher than they really are. Young Zimbabweans today are now taking a closer look at that so-called strength and have discovered that ZANU PF is a spent force, and that the Zimbabweans can overcome this party with their sheer numbers. Remember Makomborero Haruziwishe's letter from jail. He wrote, "We are many, they are few." The news that ZANU PF thugs who killed a civilian and injured 11 others at a Citizens Coalition for Change rally are being released makes a mockery of the police and judicial system in Zimbabwe. But this should not come as a surprise, because Mnangagwa, Chiwengwa, and ZANU PF have captured the state in Zimbabwe. In a remarkable selective application of the law, the CCC civil rights activist Makomborero Haruziwishe was once arrested for blowing a whistle, and he spent almost a year in jail. but the ZANU PF thugs who terrorized the CCC rally and killed one party member have been released after spending a few luxurious nights in a supposed jail. Young Zimbabweans are increasingly becoming aware of these double standards in the application of the law. Inspired also by the resistance by the people of Ukraine in their struggle against the invading Russians, the Zimbabwean youth now feel it is their responsibility to stand up against this ZANU PF monster. ZANU PF party now controls the agencies of the state. As a matter of fact, the state system in Zimbabwe was captured by ZANU PF back in 2000 when the newly formed MDC led by the late Morgan Tsvangirai gained national mass support to the extent of winning almost 50% of the parliamentary seats in the general elections. Since 2000, ZANU PF has maintained the tradition of politically motivated violence to stay in power. These vicious and barbaric attacks by the ZANU PF mobs on innocent civilians at the CCC rallies in Gokwe and Kwekwe were in keeping with this tradition of coercive violence. There were two motivations for ZANU violence these past 2 weeks or more. First is the ZANU tradition to use the Machiavellian techniques to force and coerce people into supporting it. ZANU PF knows too well that they have now lost the support of most Zimbabweans. For this reason, ZANU PF feels it has to use coercive measures to stay in power. ZANU PF is very, very much aware that it has no chance in hell in winning free and fair elections in Zimbabwe. Second, the Russian invasion of Ukraine that has included increasing number of civilians being killed has emboldened ZANU PF in two respects. One, ZANU PF now feels even more encouraged by Russia that killing civilians is the way to achieve one's objectives. Two, and while the world's attention is focused on this Russian invasion, ZANU thinks no one will pay any attention to its atrocities against civilians in Zimbabwe. However, following mounting pressure, ZANU PF sent police to, in quotes, arrest the perpetrators. But this was only to appear as if ZANU PF respects the rule of law. There are two key elections that are coming up. The by-elections for March 26 and the general elections for 2023. They will come in an environment of mass public frustration and dissatisfaction with the ZANU PF regime. As a matter of fact, members of the police, army, and other security agencies are increasingly becoming restless because their living conditions are getting worse. The family of a member of the police, army, is going through the same poverty conditions as any other citizens. Soldiers and police are now asking why they are being forced to illegally suppress, harass, and torture members of the CCC. What justification is there for police to be required to operate outside the law? On their way to a rally, members of the CCC leadership said they went through several roadblocks just to frustrate them and perhaps get them to change their minds about going to the rallies. Police were dispatched to a CCC rally to disperse it. This was the same rally police had agreed to earlier. The social media were full of videos of the police using water cannons to disperse the crowds. Police looked foolish and confused for having to break up a rally that they had permitted earlier. In the past, such tactics by the police had worked with relative success. But this time round, there is an evolving spirit of defiance, especially among the youths. Young Zimbabweans feel they have no future in their own country. 9 out of 10 Zimbabweans are unemployed. University graduates have to survive by vending. One graduate was wearing his graduation robe while selling tomatoes. Another was selling airtime. When the police brought the water cannon truck to disperse the CC rally in Gokwe, young people did not run away far. They kept running around and saying to each other, "Let us wait until the water is finished." And when the water was finished, the youths went after the police truck, throwing stones at it. The driver of the truck, knowing what was coming to him, drove the truck fast away from the pursuing youths. Another act of defiance was when the police allowed the rally to take place in Gokwe. But they imposed a limit of only 100 and banned any celebrations, singing, or dancing. And guess what happened? Citizens from Gokwe came in thousands. They danced, they sang, and they celebrated. And there was nothing police could do about it. These are the signs of a new defiance campaign in Zimbabwe. As long as the political environment is oppressive, and as long as the economic conditions continue on their downhill trajectory, youths feel they have nothing to lose and that they have to defy ZANU PF. A prominent youth member of ZANU PF who defected and resigned from ZANU PF recently talked about the zizi harina syndrome in ZANU PF. He said while he was in the party, he and many others thought Mnangagwa and ZANU PF were zizi rinemanyanga, or an owl that claims it has horns in order to make others fear it. He said when they looked closer at this zizi rinemanyanga, they noticed it was only ears, not the feared horns at all. ZANU PF has been in power for 42 years now. ZANU PF feels confident they can stay in power indefinitely. So they think. That is the same as how the Boers in apartheid South Africa used to think. Both ZANU PF and the Boers in apartheid South Africa received the same prophetic warning, which they both ignored. In the case of ZANU PF, This prophetic warning has been coming from the 44-year-old CCC President Advocate Nelson Chamisa. He has repeatedly told the oppressors that whether they like it or not, they cannot and will not stay in power indefinitely, and that change is coming sooner than they think. In the case of Boers in apartheid South Africa, this prophetic warning came from the former British Prime Minister. On February 3 in 1960, the then British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan gave his famous Wind of Change speech in apartheid South Africa. In that speech, Macmillan told the whites-only apartheid members of both houses of parliament of the Union of South Africa in Cape Town about what was going on throughout Africa. British colonies throughout Africa were getting their independence and were now being ruled by the Africans who formed most of their populations. Indeed, the decade of the 1960s was a historic moment for Africa. British colonialism and white imperialism were ending in Africa, and in what Macmillan called the wind of change sweeping across Africa. What Macmillan told the apartheid Boers 62 years ago would apply today in Zimbabwe had Macmillan been alive to address Mnangagwa, Chiwenga, and ZANU PF. Macmillan's message to white Boers who thought they would rule South Africa forever was very blunt. Macmillan said, "We have seen the awakening of national consciousness in peoples who have for centuries lived in dependence upon some other power. 15 years ago, this movement spread through Asia. Many countries there of different races and civilizations pressed their claim to an independent national life." Macmillan then went on to say, "Today the same thing is happening in Africa, and the most striking of all the impressions I have formed is of the strength of this African national consciousness." Macmillan then had this apocalyptic and very blunt message to the Boers. The wind of change is blowing through this continent, and whether we like it or not, this growth of national consciousness is a political fact. We must all accept it as a fact, and our national policies must take account of it. As I have said, the growth of national consciousness in Africa is a political fact, and we must accept it as such. That means I would judge, and that we must come to terms with it. That was Macmillan addressing the apartheid South African Parliament 62 years ago. The Boers in apartheid South Africa believed they were chosen by God to rule South Africa forever. The Boers did not believe that Africans had any human rights. They believed that Africans were destined by God to be servants of the white man. They believed the biblical Joshua 9 verse 23 referred to Africans as being cursed and forever slaves and hewers of wood and drawers of water. Why was Macmillan's wind of change speech apocalyptic? Exactly 34 years later, after his wind of change speech to the Boers, Apartheid and white minority rule in South Africa came to a dramatic end. On April 27, 1994, black South Africans were able to vote in national elections for the first time in their lives. And Nelson Mandela and the ANC emerged the decisive winners, ushering in the first black government under President Mandela. Next month, South Africa will celebrate its 20 years of independence. And this is exactly what Macmillan, as in the words of a prophet, had admonished the white Boers in 1960, that black independence was coming whether the Boers liked it or not. If Macmillan was alive today and had an opportunity to talk to Mnangagwa, Chiwengwa, and ZANU PF, he would have told them exactly the same thing he told the Boers in 1960. Macmillan would have told ZANU PF that CCC is today's wind of change in Zimbabwe. To be blunt, for ZANU PF, CCC is the apocalyptic wind of change Macmillan told the apartheid South African Boers in 1960. ZANU PF has misruled Zimbabwe for almost 42 years. Just like the apartheid Boers, ZANU PF believes it has a God-given right to rule Zimbabwe indefinitely. Mugabe used to boast that he was anointed by God to rule Zimbabwe forever. He even boasted that after his death, he would still rule Zimbabwe from his grave. But the ideology of ZANU PF, determination to stay in power indefinitely, was explained by Kumbirai Kangai when he said ZANU PF would never allow free and fair elections after the first independence elections in 1980. This position was echoed by the late Mugabe when he declared that the ballot could never replace the bullet. When Mugabe and ZANU PF lost in the 2008 elections, Mugabe refused to accept defeat and stayed in power by force of arms. Between 500 and 1,000 supporters of the then MDCT, led by the late Morgan Tsvangirai, were killed by ZANU PF thugs. Tsvangirai's BMW car, which had been donated from South Africa, was seized by the police. It is still being held by the police today, 14 years after it was illegally seized. The late reggae singer Bob Marley also sang within a prophetic voice about what will happen to the oppressors. Bob Marley was a prophet as well. And this is what he sang: "Them belly full, but we hungry. Woe to the downpresser or oppressor. Whosoever diggeth a pit shall fall in it." These are but a few examples of profound, immutable truth cloaked in the everyday language of the common folk. That was Bob Marley's prophetic song. The late Ndebadingi Sithole wrote about a character called Obed Mutezo, a nationalist and freedom fighter who was arrested by the Rhodesian soldiers. These soldiers held Mutezo in jail and warned that until he gave them all the information they wanted, they would keep him in jail indefinitely. Mutezo simply replied, "Go ahead. White colonialists will come and go. Africans are here to stay forever. Whether it is Advocate Chamisa, Harold Macmillan's Winds of Change, Bob Marley Oppressor's Downfall, or Ndabaningi Sitole's Obed Mutezo, the apocalyptic message to ZANU PF is the same. Zimbabweans are increasingly ignoring all the restrictions being placed on their attendance at CCC rallies. This is a sign of a new defiance campaign in Zimbabwe. The recognition that ZANU PF is zizi risina manyanga, and as Magomborero Haruziwishe once said, we are many, they are few. We are the ones we have been waiting for. Zimbabweans are increasingly recognizing that it is they who must fight to liberate themselves. And the young Zimbabweans have now taken the first steps of the defiance campaign. ZANU PF will not rule Zimbabwe forever. The winds of change, the words of prophets, and the young Zimbabwean revolutionaries are circling above like vultures over the ZANU PF carcass.
This concludes today's broadcast of Letter from America, a weekly in-depth analysis of the situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you for listening.
Blessed day to you all, valued viewers and listeners. Thank you for joining this episode of Letter from America, which was titled The Defiance Campaign by CCC is Scaring Zizi, Harina, Nyaga, ZANU PF. Indeed, ZANU PF is panicking. The rallies that have been held by the CCC in Harare and the Gokwe one, which was disrupted by riot police, and the Kwekwe one were all a clear illustration of the political climate in Zimbabwe right now, the way people feel about CCC and the way they feel about ZANU PF. They understand that CCC is gathering momentum. From the day it was launched, it received overwhelming support from Zimbabweans, both in and outside Zimbabwe. And this is scaring ZANU PF because for many years people have been afraid to openly demonstrate their support for MDC, which was MDC that time. But now people have come out in their numbers declaring openly their support for CCC. And this is striking fear through the entire ZANU PF party. And this panic is playing out in the form of the kind of violence that has been happening, that has been visited on CCC. For example, the attack on CCC members at the rally, resulting in the deaths of one Mboneni Ngube. Then there is also the attack on Vice President BT, which took place last night at his home, where some ZANU PF youths appeared carrying axes and allegedly a gun. And they attacked the guard who was manning the gate Fortunately, he was a very strong man. He managed to fight them off, but they hurt him quite badly. And VPBT himself was not on the scene when this happened. It was only his mother and some other people. Clearly, ZANU PF is in panic mode. They realize that they are losing their grip on power. And everything they are doing to try to cling to that power is actually costing them more of that power, because they are pushing people, they are pushing the citizens into a corner. And citizens are realizing that they have no choice but to stand and fight. I have here a video of the security guard who was attacked last night at VPBT's home. And he is explaining what happened. It might be a little bit graphical because he is bandaged, but you can clearly see that he bled a lot. So for those who are of a nervous disposition, this is just a disclaimer.
Vauya ndakagara mukati saka pavauya vangosvika kuvhuraki dhori wapinda mukati kanzi iwe takasingata ndimani vakubudisa matemo mai pabudisa matemo nemadharanga vaonoti zvaitoshata pana tanga kurwisana navo ndakuvapushira panze kuti ndivhare dho varamba vachipinda mukati saka tiri vakwanisa kupinda sei kupinda waina vasara panze saka ndopandatanga kurwisana netiri vaya vai ndichindirwisana navo chichida kutora demo ndobva vatanga kunditorova nematemo aya vachinditorova ndikabata matemo ese 2 ndikavapushira vako ndida kutora 1 ndobva vanditorova maoko aya yakazvima varova maoko angu varova maoko manambosiya rimwe 1 vandabata rimwe 1 ndobva vatanga kurova musoro mani vakurova musoro nedemo ndikati ndadadeedzera akati gandidedzere vamwe vamuki ndichideedzera ndobvaona kuti munhu anyanya kusimba vatopusha vamwe vakati duroera kumadziro ndobva vabuda manje vachimanya vachisa vavaenda vandazokwanisa kubuda manje ava vauya kuti chiitaitika ndikati vane matemo nehwani wacho ndiane pfuti vachitokupfura karamba chiti visatokupfura
saka ndanzwa kuti ndinoenda kunorara vanomati mai ndobva ndamuka ndobva ndauya kuzovhura windi vandati gadi ndobva ati ndafa mai ndafa ndondati mudiwa muka mudiwa ndobva amuka ndakati zvakanaka mudiwa musabatidze laiti ikoko handaubatidza laiti ndobva ndati handei panze kuna mudiwa ndondati wasikana mukai panze paipa wasikana mukai panze paipa ndobva vasikana wamuka radhiwe ndobva ndamutawo mukomana upano anosenza pano ndobva amuka ndobva wayawo panapo ndovatauya kunoko wamusumudza wakomana wachona ndobva waya kumba hanzi nechirwemo nengwara warimo watatu nemunhu ane gani 1 atemwa manengi panapa matatu ubaya kunofundira narowa imbwa iyo ndomunenge akuda unobatsira kurwisa gadi mene munokwanera saka panapa wotaenda chinyika tichimurisa dhito kuti ropa riti flot rege rokuramba richibuda zvakanyanya saka teichimisa dhito zvirikuratidza chonaisa saka ndobva ndazofonera kambani yacho ndakati kunotapinda mutsaona ndobva auya ndandati ngaatiende kukiriniki saka vaenda naehospital wegane inge akabata gane hanzi inge asingataura asi ava vainge achichirwisana nawo
So that was the video of that was the footage of the security guard who was guarding at the home of Tendai Biti's mom, where Tendai Biti and his campaign team had been staying. He was attacked by ZANU PF youth using axes. Vanga vaine matemo, about 3 matemo matatu, and one of them anga aine pfuti. For those of us who are just joining us, this is, anzi mviro dzemanza mapfeka. Hatisati tambosvika padhuze nekuma elections chaiwo muna 2023 tiri kungoita by elections and already zvatotanga. Saka we have to understand kuti kwatiri kuenda neZANU PF hakuna kumira mushe. Ezvino izvi hanzi vakapa mayouth pfuti, maZANU PF youth. Imagine kuti vamaZANU PF youth iwayaya vanhu vari mentally unstable, probably from abusing substances, whether mtoriro or whatever. And then they go and give these youth guns. Vasina kana training, vasina formal training yekuti azive how lethal and how easily a tragedy can occur munhu kana uine pfuti. Zvinonida training yekuti munhu azive kuti when is it okay or when is it acceptable kuti ushandise pfuti. There are many cases where people die for no reason other than just that pane munhu anga aine pfuti. Nekuti munhu kana aine pfuti, they feel powerful and anogona kungotsamwa for a very small thing opfura munhu. Saka ndo situation iri on the ground in Zimbabwe right now, kuti kune mayouth akapuwa futi vasina kana training, vari unstable. It's very dangerous for civilians because mayouth iwayaya vakada kutsvaga mari dzemadrugs when they need drugs vaine futi, they will use those guns to rob people. Ndozvichatanga kuitika. So we have a really dangerous situation in Zimbabwe right now, and we have to do something. We have to act. But toita sei, ngatibatsiranei, tifunge tuone kuti what can we do in addition to registering to vote. What can we do to secure our own lives? Because as we see, threat is limited to political figures or political situations. My youth were sezvakangoita masoja. Pane masoja akawanda ari kubatwa vachiba vachishandisa pfuti. One wavo akatotaura kuti takabvumidzwa kubuda nepfuti mumabarracks zvikanzi you can use those guns kutsvaga mari. So this is such an irresponsible thing chirikuitwa ne ZANU PF. Hanzi naDanny Mphandle sitole inonzi trigger happy yekuti unozongozviwana wauraya munhu otoregreta because anenge angobatwa nekamweya keke kuti nekuti anayo pfuti. So matitoita sei, what can we do? Because the situation on the ground is just worsening day by day. Sir Clifford vati ZANU PF haina vanhu. So if these thugs keep on doing this dirty job, then it's about time people should defend themselves by ganging up against vanenge vabatwa movaita was stuck. I'm not sure what he meant there. Then vanotaura kuti vatumwa nani, and next time vanoramba, and this will send a strong message to the wicked men. It's about time. Yeah, I'm in total agreement with this, because my citizens vasara vasina any protection. Havana protection from their leaders. They're getting no protection from the courts. They're getting no protection from the police. No protection from the soldiers. And the iwo soldier nemapurisa angachifanira kunge vave vanoprotecta vanhu. Ndo vari kutonzi shandisai pfuti idzi mutsvage mari. So citizens, we are on our own. It's up to us. If we choose not to do anything, one by one, we will be attacked for different reasons. We are not gonna attack because vari kuda kukutorera mari, varuda kuba, all for political reasons. But it's time that we all come together to fight. These youths vashoma havana kumbowanda. Tikangogara tichiziva kuti whether tiri mutown whether tiri kudzimba, ukangonzwa kuti kwaita mayuthi vari kukonzeresa, vanhu vese budai muende munobatsira, mubate. And then inini I would advise, this is my personal advice, haisi official position here, any party kana kuti any organization. My personal opinion is vanhu ngavarohwe, because tiri kudhila nevanhu vasisiri right mumusoro umu. Vanhu vanga vaiputa mutoriro ezvinezvi vapuwa pfuti, ende vakasungwa vanobudiswa. MaZANU PF youth vakarova vanhu kukwekwe last Sunday, vatobuda by now, vakasungwa but ezvinezvi vatoburitswa, they are out. Saka kana tikamirira kuti vanosungwa, hapana zvazvinombochinja. Vanosungwa vachibuda, futi dzacho vanadzo futi. So it's just time that we, the citizens, have to take matters in our own hands. And I repeat, this is my personal opinion. Tongogara takaziva muneighborhood kuti ukaatakwa, make noise, ende mukanzwa munhu aita noise, budai makabata matemo, mapadza, whatever zvamuinazvo, huyai nehuwandu hwenyu. Mukaita imimi 300, ivo vari 5. Havamboningirikana, they can't fight so many people. It's either vachatiza kana kuti vachabatwa, ende kana vabatwa ngavarohwe, because that's the language they understand. Vanhu vane njere dzisisiri kushanda zvakanaka. And pachishona zvinonzi ukasekerera benzi rinodya sipo. Mukava lenient nevanhu vasina kukwana, vanokuitirai mashura. That time has come to put an end to this. But it's up to us, the citizens, in the same way now that through the CCC we are coming together and supporting one cause. Ngatichigadzirisei security yedu. Kana kuri kutown, munhu akaatakwa mese, wherever you are, nonga something, nonga dombo, nonga chimuti, especially vanhu vechirume, my youth. Enda ikoko kune munhu kwaatakwa munhu, batai vanhu and find out kuti ndiani nani vari kurwisana. Why are they fighting? Mukangoziva chere kuti ZANU PF youth ngarohwe, zvekuti haambozvipamidza futi. But I advise kuti be careful to first determine who is who, because vanogona kunge vakapfeka mama t-shirts CCC, for example, to make it look like vanhu CCC vari ku, and then munogona kupedzisira makurova munhu asiriye. So batai vanhu, find out who is who. Kana mangoziva chere kuti pane ZANU PF youth ngaro, that will send the message. Havazombotumwa futi vachibvuma vakaziva kuti ukabatwa unorohwa, ende vakaziva kuti ma-citizens, ma-civilians abatana. Munhu akangochema chete, vese vanouya, kunouya vanhu 300, 200, whatever. Vakazviziva izvozvo ndozvinoitika, haambobvuma kutumwa kuenda kunonoita, nyangwe aine futi. Anozviziva kuti nyangwe nefuti iyo ndinogona kupfura 1, but kana vanhu vari 300 vakandimomotera, vanonditorera futi iyo ndigorohwa. I believe the time has come now that we have to protect ourselves. Kana kuri kudzimba, garai muri alert, mukangonzwa noise, budai mese in that neighborhood. Mukagara mudzimba nhasi ndeimba imba iyi inenge yaatakwa, but mangwana vanouya kwako one by one, vanotipedza vachibreaka in. But if we in our neighborhoods tototaurira, totobvumirana kuti ngatigarei takagadzirira, kukangoitika noise, sound the alarm, mutsai vamwe, vanhu vese vobuda voenda ikoko kune noise, munonobata maculprits, and you dish out the justice which you have been denied. Vanhu vari innocent vanokandwa mujeri. Pana teacher, a female woman, akaiswa mujeri for simply complaining kuti salary haisi kukwana. And then vanhu vakauraya munhu vanopinda a few days and then they are released. You are never going to get justice from the courts. You are never going to get justice from the international community. You are never going to get justice from the police, from the security services. The only way to get justice in Zimbabwe and to put an end to this terror by ZANU PF youth is to take matters into your hands and ensure that it is done. These are my personal opinions. I'm not representing any organization, I'm not representing any party. Mafungiro anguo ndodo kunzwa vamwe vangu kuti munofunga sei. Hanzi naBernard munhu wese pauri ita action kutodzorera ndokwakudiwa. Takavaregerera kubvira kare. Munhu ane futi anorohwa 1 neasina hatikwate futi. Yes, exactly. Especially our youth, our young men. Be always on the alert. Kuti kukaitika noise, you take action. Tipedze terror iri kuitwa nevanhu veZANU PF. These same people vari kutumwa tinogara navo mumaraini ende vanozivikanwa. Let's be tough on them. Yeah. Kana vachitozivikanwa zvavo nekwavanogara, kana kubhadhara, kubhadhara vanhu kuti vanomurova, kana kungo kuita kuplana pamwe chete kunomutsvaga kwaanogara ikoko, vakangozviziva chete kuti zvaakurovesa vanozvirega. Kujaidzwa chaiko kwavakaita uku. Douglas Taney says best way kana vabatwa yeah, very good idea here. I'm so sorry kuti, we're being forced into this place, this position where we have to come up with ruthless ways to deal with people who in fact are our brothers, but they have left us no choice. And Douglas Taney, the best way kana vabatwa ngavachkorwe makumbo nemaoko. Nekuti mukasiya vachifamba vanogona kudzoka futi vagozviita futi, but kana achkorwa makumbo nemaoko hapana, haazvidzokorodze and anoregreta for the rest of his life. And vamwe vaese vakazviziva kuti ndo zvaakuita vanhu havambobvuma kutungwa, and because kavanotumirwa chacho futi imari shoma 50, I don't know kuti inogona kusvika kana $50 here yaanopuwa, kana kuti very small things chaanoenda kunourayira munhu. But mukavadzidzisa kuti the consequences of doing that are harsh, vanozvirega. Can't afford anymore to keep just waiting and hoping kuti zvinhu zvinoita better. Hazviite better. 2023 ikasvika ZANU PF isina kubviswa, ZANU PF youth apuwa futi ava, nemasoja ari kupuwa right yekuti shandisai futi kutsvaga mari, kana mapurisa chaiwo zvavanoita zvekuti vanoisa maroadblock pese pese vachitsvaga excuses ekupa vanhu mafine kuti vawane mari. Zvichaita worse. After 2023, it's just going to get worse. And Zimbabwe will be hell. Saka hapana. 2023, this has to happen. As starting from now, I believe people should take action to put an end to this terror that is being rained on the people by ZANU PF youth. Sir Clifford says we can also challenge mafundisi emachechi kwamunobvisa mari kuti sei vari kunyarara vanhu vachipondwa. The heat needs to be turned up against ZANU PF before 2023 by any cost, because it's either now or never. Nasi vangavauraya gadu wabiti. Exactly. Yes, that's a very good point you bring there, Sir Clifford. I suggest kuti vafundisi vakarambawo kumira nemi vakati uraiwai zvenyu, pondwai, birwai nemazanu PF youth hati ivo havadi kupindira nyaya dzacho. Just stop attending church kwavari ikoko. That action on its own will speak volumes to them. Muchavaona vachatanga kutaura. Kana vasingadewo kutaura, saka nemiwo musava supported. They won't support you when you need support from them. Saka mi musarambe muchienda muchinonobvisa mari dzenyu muchivapa, ivo vachi facilitate nekuenable ZANU PF kuti irambe ichikuterrorizai. It's time now to bring people to account. Kana even ma artists, kana artist asingadewo kumira nevanhu, koinimi, why do you support that artist? send a message, a clear message to everyone asingade kumira nevanhu. Because I mean, why would they stop supporting ZANU PF if there are no consequences? There are no deterring factors. Hapana chinhu chingava force kuti vaningirikine to distance themselves from ZANU PF. We have to put that pressure on all these people. Kuti, if you can't stand with the people will also not stand with you. Cordelia Matsuro Mtembu says, I think it's high time to defend. Yeah, we've really been pushed into a corner. Hakuna kwatingambotizira. Everything is captured. All the systems are captured. We have no choice but to stand and defend ourselves. Kana vachitozivikanwa ivo vachirova vanhu, isu tichinorova mhuri dzavo. Vanozvirega. Yes, that's another thing. Mukavatswinya panorwadza ipapo vanozvirega. Erisha M says, by unleashing mentally retarded psychopaths and giving them guns, Mnangagwa has declared Zimbabwe a lawless country and the laws of the jungle must now apply. We have to arm ourselves to the teeth. Exactly. Kupa, those ZANU PF youth futhi, knowing kuti are mentally unstable because of my drugs avanotora to cope with life. He has completely declared openly kuti rule of law does not apply anymore. Saka mimi mukaramba muchitya law, you could violate the lawmakers. It's to our own disadvantage. Hakusisina rule of law. Saka, we have to arm ourselves and defend ourselves. It's a matter of life and death now. You never know kuti unobatirwa papi, anobatwa ndiani, anobatirwa papi. Many soldiers have been caught now trying to steal using guns. Pane mumwe akabatwa akuda kuita abuse mwana akapedzisira kushuta in the air. So they are being given these weapons and they are using them to take advantage of people. And these are the law enforcers themselves. Saka hapasisina rule of law. Bernard says every rally takuda tight security yema citizen. Yes, not police. Munhu wese arikuya. Oh yes. Munhu wese arikuya pa venue must be searched. Yes. I think we must secure my venues built in ekuti aungopinda from anywhere. Unotopinda nepane gate. And munhu wese asati apinda anosechwa. That way we can ensure kuti hapana munhu anopinda aine weapon, in that venue. And I think also it's important to conscientize vanhu vanenge vari kumarally kuti be alert, keep your eyes open. Usavarairwe too much nekunakidzwa nerally. Keep your eyes open. Watch the people vari around you. Ukaona munhu ari kubehave in a strange way, alert others. Find out ndiani munhu yeye. Kana asina anomuziva kuti sure this is a member of CCC ngabviswe. Because sezvakaitika kukwekwe kuti vanhu vanga vari kurali vakatemwa nematombo vakarohwa nechii, like vanhu vanga vari padhuze nevakarohwa, they should have seen kuti uyu akabata dombo uyu kana kuti akabata simbi. Saka ngatiregei kuvararirwa stereki kana taakurali zvezvekutadza kunotisa something chiri out of the ordinary. Everybody just be alert and on the lookout for perpetrators. and vanhu ngavapuwe ma-instructions ekuti ukaona munhu ari suspicious unoita sei, woudzwa kunzi unoenda kune munhu akaita sei. Vanenge security, vanhu vesecurity vanenge vanitori something, whether dress code or something chekuti ukamuona unobva waziva kuti uyu security. So ukangoona munhu ari suspicious unongobuda chinyararire woenda kune vesecurity wouya nawo, ivo vongosvingomukomberedza so obva vangomuti dzvi. So munhu wese anenge ari parally akanga aine ma-instructions wayekuziva kuti commotion ikamuka, what should I do? Should I run? If I should run, where should I run? Kuti tisazosvika pasituation yekuti munhu anobva atizira kune danger kwacho ikoko, kana kuti unotiza mosiya mumwe achirohwa achikuvadzwa. So everyone has to have a clear idea yavanoti like sezvavanoita ma-fire drill ekuti kukaita moto unofanira kufamba neapa, unofanira kufamba on your knees and hands kuitira kuti usabreathe in smoke. Vanhu vopuwa ma-instructions ari clear what to do to prevent further injury, to prevent loss of life, and also to try and avert that danger, that threat yema-ZANU PF youth vanenge vaplantwa among ma-CC members at a rally. Joyce Rupere says, you are right, they can't continue doing this. Then she laughs, she says, sister, aiwa, shame. And I'm just imagining by the time we get to 2023, because these are just by-elections, and already, zvatotanga. Tambudzai Bangira says, good evening, Auntie Barbara. Do I sound like Little Barbara? But anyway, blessed evening, my sister. Erisha M says, absolutely. Once caught, we must break their hands permanently. We can't allow this rubbish. Guns are all over now. Some of us can use guns effectively. Yes. Now that they've released guns to ZANU PF youths and they are releasing guns to soldiers when they leave the barracks, so guns are all around, and unfortunately they are held by people who are irresponsible and people who have been conditioned to abuse the masses, to abuse the civilians. So, it's a very dangerous situation for all civilians, not only political players. Because kana vakutsvaga mari havatsvage kuti uri political, uri party ipi. Nema-drugs havanotora their heads, misoro yavo haitori mushe. Anina Tambudzai Bangira, imagine ngatinamatire pamba. Oh, yes. I think you're commenting on the issue yema vafundisi vasingade kutaura chokwadi. Yes, kana mukaona vafundisi venyu vasingade kutaura chokwadi, kukondemna zviri kuitwa neZANU PF, chisiyanawo navo, because kutaura chokwadi kwavanoita ikoko ndokukusapota ivo kuti musarambe muchiterrorizwa. Musa terrorizwe nema-ZANU PF youth vari kupuwa pfuti vachipuwa permission yekuti endai munotsvaga mari. Kana vasingadiwo kukusapotai kuti kuchengetedza upenyu hwenyu, why do you want to go and listen to that same person preaching love, preaching God, preaching Christ, and then you also want to give your money? Why you want to enable the person ari kusapota vari kukuterroriza ivacho ivavo? Smomo Wale Pirates Matunde says, I've said this before, Zimbabweans must start to unfollow the likes of Herald, ZBC, and all those artists. Yes, exactly. If you unfollow those artists, vakaona kuti va lose a following yevanhu vakawanda because of aligning with ZANU PF, vanozviregera zvekunono performa kuma rallies eZANU PF. Pane vamwe vanoti they are just trying to earn a living, but ukaearna a living uchienda kunono performa at an event yekuti ZANU PF irambe iri in power muna 2023. There's something wrong with maybe your understanding. The reason why our artists actually feel pressured to perform at a ZANU PF event is because they don't have other means of making money, which is tragic. Because young people, artists, young kids, varikuita ma videos pa YouTube, vakangowana chete following, vakawana viewership iri large, they are making millions. Kids under 16 are millionaires. Nekungoita content pa YouTube. Isusu ma artists edu chirikuvatadzisa kuita mari pa YouTube is that muna hana data rekwenda pa YouTube kunonoona video ya whether ndi Enzo Inshel whoever. Haukwanise kushandisa a lot of money kwenda kunonoona ma videos pa YouTube because data riri kudhura plus mari yacho hapana. But zvinhu zvikachinja. Mukaisa mukomana akapinda akaisa wifi across the country. My youth edu vanenge vachiswera vari pa YouTube. My songs ana Enzo Inshel vanani anenge aine ma likes hobo, ma subscribers hobo, ma views hobo. They make money just like that. You don't even need to sell your music. My musicians, they don't even bother with selling their music. Some don't even bother with copywriting. Vanongoisa music yavo pa YouTube. People visit YouTube, they watch, and they get paid lots of money. Kune vana ma 10-year-olds yavo vareta tuma video twavo twevana vadiki, and they have ma subscribe 100,000 of subscribers, and they are making money. We can do that as well munyika medu. Zvinhu zvikangochinja if we get easy access to data. So those artists, paunoenda uchinonoperforma kurally yeZANU PF kuti upuwe, I don't know, kunopuwa chika 80 ka 50 ka 100, you could be making millions on YouTube if you remove ZANU PF kupinda administration inokwanisa kugadzirisa zvinhu. Henry Musikavanhu says, hello dandaro remhuri yeCCC. Dare Change Radio. Hello, my brother Henry Musikavanhu. Welcome. This is letter from America. Dumi Kola says, no retreat, no surrender. Vanavevu, the time is now. Pasine mandu, vapambe pfumi ZANU PF. These guys are just there to dip their dirty hands mufumi wedu wenyika, just to fatten their own pockets and tummies. Their time is over. Very, very accurate. These guys have no interest in the well-being of Zimbabweans. Kana havana kana hanya. In fact, zvakaita colonialists, the way they saw Africans pavanga vari in power, ndo zvakaita ZANU PF. Ndo maonero avanotita havatione sevanhu as they themselves are. Vanototiona as lesser people. Vane a sense of entitlement iri ridiculous. To imagine kuti ndivo vanhu vakarwira kubvisa system iyoi, but even though they are the ones vari kuidriver manje, and they are driving it worse because nguva the colonialism, ma services, ma public services aishanda. Kana vaitora zvavo the wealth of the country vachishare pakati pavo, but havaizoba kusvikira vasiya nyika yaita mamvemvese zvaita ZANU PF. They are worse. People of the same skin color, our own brothers, but havachationa sevanhu. Vakuti treat worse than zvaita macolonials. Saka, as Dumi Kola says, ndizvozvo, no retreat, no surrender. The time is now. Their time is over. It's well overdue. But because Varukuramba, they are refusing to get the message, so we have to send the message home. We have to speak the language they understand. ZANU PF understands violence. Ukada kugara pasi kutaura zvakanaka nemunhu asina kukwana, munhu ari unstable mentally, hapana kwamunombosvika. Sometimes you have to be strong-handed with them, then they will understand kuti panapa paipa. Smomowale Pirates Matunde says, I'm glad that you are talking about this. Opposition must start to defend themselves. Fight with what you have. Stop folding hands and watching one of you being attacked. Help each other fight together. Stop just watching and being surprised. This is not the time to sympathize. It's a war time. Yes, we are at war. ZANU PF has declared war against the civilians by arming ZANU PF youth with guns and releasing them into the public, and releasing soldiers with guns into the public and giving them instructions to use these guns to look for money. They have clearly declared war on the civilians. And so we cannot afford anymore, as you are saying, Smomo, to fold our hands and watch. Let us be alert and aware wherever we are and ready to defend ourselves. Come together in our numbers, and if someone is being attacked, grab the perpetrator. Find out who is who. If it's a ZANU PF youth, if it's a soldier, mete out your own justice, because akaenda kujeri hapana anongonoreleaswa. Otozouya futi mangwana akukutsvaga ekuti iwo ndiwo akandibata. Hanzi nevamwe skorai makumbo futi nemaoko, hapana apa anozomboya achikutsvaga futi kuti iwo ndiwo akandibata musuya. Mete out your own justice, because justice is not going to be handed out, not by the police, not by the soldiers, not by the leaders of the country, not by the courts, and not by the international community either. It's up to us. Tambudzai Bangira says, kana asingafariri slogan mubvunze kuti why usingasimudzi chigunwe mudenga, cause muvengi anotooneka kuti mind yake haisi paari. Exactly. Kana pari parali, I'm sure you mean kana pari parali. Ukaona munhu asiri kuita part take in the events, panosumudza vamwe chigunwe iye haasumudze, panoita vamwe slogan iye haaite slogan, chibva keep an eye on that person, kana kuti chibva toaleta security kuti keep an eye on this person. That way we will avert my situations ekuti tinozongoreacta zvinhu zvaitika, but we try to prevent these things from happening before they even happen. And the best way is that isusu vacho tiri at risk of being attacked, tese ngative we are looking out, we are keeping an eye on the lookout to kuona kuti pane perpetrate, pane ningirikini paita mandu here, kana paita any person ari kubehave zviri suspicious, report them. Joyce Ripere says, let's try to move in groups, especially when doing door-to-door campaigns, and deploy ourselves as security officers. Yes, absolutely. If we are doing our door-to-door campaigns, let's move in large groups. Munogona kana kuti masvika pane area mongo deploy na kuti iwo pinda paimbai iwo paimbai muri ne group. I see if anything happens, make noise. Mukangonzwa noise mese mumhanya ipapo pacho paitwa noise, and you help each other. Kwete, as Tambudzai said, kwete kumira. Oh, it's not Tambudzai. Someone said that kuti unoona panenge pachirohwa munhu we-CCC, vamwe vakamira vari confused, vakungotarisa, havasi kunzwisisa kuti chichiri kuitika, and havasi kuziva kuti what should I do. Ngatipei madirections kune vanhu vachingosvika parali, kana vachienda kunoita ma-door-to-door campaigns, ngavapuwe ma-instructions ekuti how do you secure your safety muri panengirikini pa-campaign ipapo. It's very important. Kwete kuti tizochema after zvinhu zvaitika. Douglas Toney says Safantan Fantan Imboko. I suppose that's either an artist kana kuti producer. I've heard his name before, but I'm not sure kuti the artist or kana kuti the producer. You know, the human being is like that. They learn from experiences. Munhu akaba pakashaya chinoitika kwaari haambozviziva kuti kuba kwakashata. Kuti munhu azive kuti kuba kwakashata kana mwana mudiki chaiye anorohwa neshamu. Kana arohwa neshamu ndo paanoziva kuti izvi hazvidzokorodzwe. Saka yanguva yekubata shamu. Tambudzai Bangira says kutaura chokwadi vakarwira nyika hapasisina ava vana Dhagirasi Monzora hapana akasunungura nyika paya. Very true. I think vanhu vakarwira nyika, most of them have already passed away. Tangosara ma liars, you know, ma opportunists who will do and say anything, you know, to gain power and to take advantage of a situation. Saka, you know, it's time for us citizens, you know, it's the time, the season for the citizens of Zimbabwe to take control of the politics, economy, the social values, social norms. Gati, you know, we have to absolutely reject criminal behavior, whether it's stealing, you know, it was ZANU PF, looting, corruption. It's time that we redefine our social norms. Ukaba, there are very strict, very strong consequences. Ukauraya munu, ukabuda mjeri wauraya munu. Justice must be meted out by the citizens. It is time for us, the citizens, to take that responsibility to direct our country in the direction that we want it to go. Izvo zvazviitike nekuchema takapeta maoko. We have to take things into our own hands and ensure that zviri kuenda the way we want. Reject my politicians vasina hanya nevanhu. Nelson Nadzikatire says imwe mboko ndigambakwe inotaura kuti leadership yeZANU doesn't incite violence or didn't incite violence yekwekwe pamberi neCCC. Yeah, Gambakwe is just another you know, ZANU PF, you know, I call them idiots, forgive my French. Munhu anotaura zvekunyepa about something that the whole country knows, like njere dzake dzinoshanda here. Ungade kunyepera nyika yese uchivaudza something that you know. He knows full well kuti everyone in Zimbabwe knows the truth. Saka kana uchienda, you know, on the public platform kunotaura chinhu chaunoziva iwewe kuti hachisi chokwadi, chaunoziva kuti munhu wese anoziva kuti hachisi chokwadi, what are you trying to achieve? Because of course munhu unonyepa, but the point yekunyepa ndeyekuti you want to deceive. But kana uchinyepa zvinhu zvinoziva unoziva kuti no one is going to believe it anyway. What are you trying to do? Uri right here, right musoro mugamba kwa asi is just another ZANU PF idiot. Njere dzacho dzakatamba nepwere. Zvikanzi naJoyce Rupere, sister kanjani kutofamba nepembe ya whistle. Yes. Excellent idea for alerting with each other should you suspect imminent attacks. Excellent idea, my sister Joyce Rupere. Patinoenda kumaningirikini kuita door-to-door campaigns, kana even just in general. Munhu ukagara uine whistle yako, whether urikuenda kutown whatever, tese ma-civilians tichiziva kuti ukangonzwa whistle enda kune whistle. That way, we can put an end to this fiasco yamuka ku Zimbabwe. because things are going to get ugly with these youth who are mentally unstable and they are armed. Muchanzwa zvakawanda. Nelson Madzika tiri taura hako masista mupengo. Hakuna munhu chaiye ane dzakakwana nhasi anosapota ZANU PF because it defies logic. Vari kuuraya nyika yauri kugara iwewe, hakuna running water, hakuna magetsi, saka why are you supporting them? Kuma hospitals hakuna mishonga, and it's not like they are sharing the wealth with everyone anosapota ZANU. Kune vamwe vanongopuhwa saga renhingi, vanopuhwa bhodhoro recooking oil nebhaa resipo, wotosapota zveshuwa uchiziva kuti mangwana ndikarwara hakuna kuhospital kwandinonorapwa, ivo vanoenda abroad kunonorapwa, but iwe wotovasapota. It just shows kuti pane kakusafunga karipo. So hapana munhu ane dzakakwana chaiye achiri kusapota ZANU PF today. Henry Musikavanhu says Gambakwe ari kuda kukumbira hanzi ari kuda kukumbira kugashirwa zvakanaka neZANU PF zvakaita vamwe vake vana Jonasi nen'anga iya. Yes, I guess ndo strategy yake yekuadvertisa kuti guys I'm here neniwo ndiri kuda a share of the pie, but isisuwo ngatiite unfollow vese vanga vari kufollowa Gambakwe, just unfollow so that he understands kuti he can't have it both ways. He can't be popular with the people and aligning with ZANU PF. So he chooses, Canada ZANU PF, all right, ngachi earner his living ne ZANU PF. Canada kumira nevanhu ngasiyane nezve ZANU PF. We are tired of ZANU PF. You pay just kunyorerwa cards. Yeah, they are taking money in every way possible, but they are returning nothing to the people. Ivavo vanenge vapuhwa macards acho hapana chavanowana, vanozoti takuenda kuma-elections vakuda mavotes avo futi, ndopavanodzoka vopuhwa bhaa resipo. Pakati pese apa vanenge vachidya ivo nevana vavo. So it's high time that we as citizens come together and have, define one direction, one vision kwatuda kuendesa nyika yedu. Anzi no kunyorerwa cards vekuclinic vakomana imi. Saka kuclinic kwacho kungonyorerwa card chete vanenge vachitoda kuti ubhadhare mari, ende zvakaoma. Yeah, isusu vanotiona semombe, vanoti they treat us like cows. Dzekuti vanongouya vachikama mukaka. Kana mombe ikaita nani, because mombe dzako unodzichengeta, unodzifeeda, unodziprotecta kuti dzisatakwe. But isusu we are treated worse than cows because ivo vacho ndo vari kutotuma mayouth nemasoja kuti vatiatake, nemapurisa vakapuwa right yekutora advantage kuti vatifaine for small things nekuti abuse tichikandwa mujeri for nothing. We are worse than cows in Zimbabwe. We are treated worse than cows. Anzi Natambudzai Bangira Gambakwe paasvika ngaadzingwe zvakaitwa PA conference yaakadzingwa kuPretoria. Ndakafara zvekuti pandakazviona exactly. Potai muchimudzinga akada kuuya kuma-events eCCC, momudzingira kure uko kuti asatombosvika kana padhuze. Makaita tumavideo twake paFacebook or wherever. Nyenyeredzai musambovhura, aite maviewers mashoma, anodzidza ega. Just like that you will learn. But I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you, viewers and listeners, for joining us today for this episode of Letter from America. which was titled "The Defiance Campaign by CCC is Scaring ZANU Harina Nyanga ZANU PF," meaning ZANU PF only appears to be undefeatable, but it's not. It's easy. It's not Nyanga. It just looks scary, but it's not invincible. Saka my campaigns CCC attack-on in the last few weeks have demonstrated kuti people have realized now kuti inga izizi harina nyanga, and that's a beautiful thing. Saka ngatichi let's take things in our hands all the way. Now ta CCC, Citizens Coalition for Change, zvirikunzi citizens take charge. This is the way it was supposed to be right from beginning. Citizens are supposed to govern themselves. Ndivo vanofanira kudecida zvavari kuda kuti zviitike munyika. Vanodecida vatungamiriri vavari kuda, vanodecida mapolicies avari kuda, ndo basa reconstitution. Vanodecida economy avari kuda. So this is the time now. We must take matters into our hands and do what it takes to make sure we are driving our country in the direction that we want. I will just thank you once again for joining us and wish you an absolutely blessed week, and hope to see you again next week on Letter from America, which starts at 6:30. We start by watching a video by Professor Mukasa, who is in America. Then we have a short discussion like the one we just had. So I would just like to wish you a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, night, depending on what time it is where you are. See you again next week. Thank you and bye-bye.
Vanambuya nana sekuru kumamisha nehama dzose dzisati dzaziva, ndine shoko guru randinoda kubudzai, Nelson Chamisa wave nebato itsva, iri danho rakatorwa mushure mekunge paonekwa kuti zita reMDC rakange rasvibiswa nemhandu, ngonzo rako michina nakupe nevamwe. Saka kana mave kuzoenda kunovhota, munofanira kucherekedza kwazvo chiso chaChamisa nemasi matatu, pamwe neruvara rwemabhanana. Votera Nelson